Hello and welcome. I am Zach with WorleyTutorials.com, and in this video we're going to be talking about the basics of shapes, the very basic shapes. If you go over here to your tools panel, you'll see right off the bat there is a shape tool, which is by default it's a rectangle tool. Keyboard shortcut is M. So here's a few things. One, if you click and drag, it will be freeform on the rectangular shape, okay, which basically just means you have 4 points and four paths. And as soon as you release, it will create your shape. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the strokes and the fill options. However, if you do want to, I'm going to change the fill just so you can see the inside color. But kind of the rule of thumb is if you have no stroke and no fill, then you will not see it, okay? The blue line that you see that kind of disappears and reappears, consider that like your skeleton, and you won't be able to see anything unless you put some flesh on it. So the flesh is either the fill or the stroke. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and put a stroke on there, and I'm also going to change the fill so that we can see inside these shapes that we make. Again, I'm going to clarify what the fill and the stroke are and how to use them more properly in a video later. In this case, we've just made a rectangle. So using the shape tool, keyboard shortcut M, if I click and drag and hold shift, it's going to make a perfect square. And if I hold option, I kind of went over this in the last video. If I hold option, then it will expand from the center. And if I hold the space bar, then I can actually move it while expanding it. So those are kind of just the keys that will help you on every single shape. They are pretty much exactly the same. So shift, symmetrical, option, center, space bar, move it. So there's the square. I'm going to push and hold on the rectangle tool, and you'll get the rounded rectangle tool. It's the rounded corners that makes it unique. And of course, if you click and drag, and as you're dragging, if you do the up and down arrows, what that'll do for you is it will make your corners more or less circular. Now here's a quick little tip that you might actually figure out on your own because you're dabbling as I'm talking. If I was to hold still and do the up and down arrow, it is going to take forever to get to the shape that we want. However, if you hold the up arrow and move your mouse around, it kind of goes a lot faster. And same thing with the down arrow. If I kind of just move the mouse around a little bit, it tends to just snap right in there fairly quickly. So that's a cool little trick. If you hold up or down, move the mouse around, and it's going to make it for you. So that's kind of how you can make the pill shape, or you can also make kind of the rounded corner business card type of shape. So that's the rounded corner tool. Again, this is the basics, so we're just covering what these things can do. The circle tool, again, it's going to be freeform if you do not hold any keys at all. So if I want kind of an oval title type of thing, like a background for a title, then there you go. You just freeform it and make it happen. However, if you want to make a perfect circle, then hold shift and from the center, option, and of course if you need to move it, the space bar. And there is no really other special thing about the circle. It is just that. The one thing that is kind of cool is if you were to use the direct selection tool and select an anchor point, you'll see that the handles actually appear. So if I want to expand this side by itself, then I can get the direct selection tool and expand just that. So that's kind of cool. You can start with a shape and then kind of evolve it from there by simply using the direct selection tool. And then when you're done with that, go back to kind of using the regular selection tool to move it around. So actually, this is kind of a cool way to make a raindrop or a teardrop, a drop of water. Is you kind of do this, get the direct selection tool, click on this one and drag it straight up. and get your handles. And what you can do actually is get the convert tool, which we talked about in the video, in the tools video, and you click on that. It's going to make a from this, it's going to turn that curve into a straight angle. So there you go. You kind of have a quick, easy teardrop type of thing. Moving on. If you click and hold again, you have the polygon tool. Now this is very interesting because, again, if you hold shift, what it does is it will take those angles and take those shapes and make them as symmetrical as possible. So in this case, we have 6 sides. And if we want to add more or less, we can simply use the up and down arrow, and it will make it more sides or less sides. This is the best way to make a triangle. Here's why. It will take all the sides out, so you have exactly 3 anchor points and 3 sides, just like how a triangle should be. A lot of people will try to use the star tool, and because what you can do is exactly the same thing. You click and drag, and then you do the down arrow, and you'll get a triangle. But if you notice, there's more anchor points here. The more anchor points you have, the more data you're going to have to be using. Also, you're going to have to be more careful with your object so that you don't accidentally mess up your triangle. Okay, so again, use the polygon tool in order to make a triangle if necessary. So polygon, click and drag, and by default it's going to stay at whatever shape that you left it. And so what you can do is simply just go with the up arrow and add those sides back to it if you need to. So that's pretty cool. I use this in the paper heart video, so if you want to actually see how this works in a real design type of thing, then you can go and check that out in the paper heart tutorial. I'm going to click and hold star tool. Here's what's interesting about the star tool. If I click and drag, I'm going to make it back to where it has the right sides. Again, holding the different keys, I want to see what this thing does. Shift keeps it symmetrical. Option, as you can see, it does change it, but what exactly is it doing? Well, it's actually making the inside points and the outside points to be symmetrical with each other. Okay, so it's going to be expanding it from the center symmetrically. Command is very interesting on this one. What it does is it expands the outside points, or it actually can move them inside or outside. So what you do is you make the center smaller by sizing it down. So I released command, then I'm going to hold command and expand it out, and it expands just the outside points. Same thing, I released command, I'm going to size it up, then I'm going to hold command, bring these down, let go of command, bring it up. And so now I'm kind of getting the inside back to where it's supposed to be. Now, when would you ever use a star tool other than trying to make a star? Well, you can use it in all different forms and fashions. So let's say you're trying to make an award for somebody, and you want to make like a special type of sticker that goes on the award. Well, then you can add as many sides as you need to and size up these points to what you want. So now you have kind of that typical award star that goes on the awards. The very last tool is called the flare tool. Now, or I'm sorry, not the last tool. The last shape is a flare tool. Now, it is very cool looking, yes, but how applicable it is, I'm not 100% sure. I rarely use this. You could use this as like an eye and change the colors, but this tool just seems to be more bothersome to use. Personally, if I want the eye look, then I would rather just go in there and build it myself, rather than having to default this and then try to get rid of whatever I don't want. I'm not opposed to the flare tool. I just don't really like it that much. So those are the different shapes and the basic functionality of the shapes. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to build shapes from shapes.